इंडिया को 21 रन से शिकस्त दे दी। और अब इन खबरों की तफसील। अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा ने कहा है कि म्यांमार की हुकूमत ने अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा की टीम के रखाइन रियासत के उनके दौरे को बगैर वजह बताए अचानक मनसूख कर दिया है। म्यांमार फौज की रोहिंग्या मुसलमानों के खिलाफ कार्रवाई के बाद वहां मौजूद अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा की इमदादी कारकुनों को जबरन निकाल दिया गया था। 25 अगस्त से लेकर अब तक तकरीबन 4 लाख से ज्यादा रोहिंग्या मुसलमान म्यांमार से नकल मकानी कर चुके हैं। अमरीकी वज़ीर दिफा जेम्स मैट्स ने कतर का गैर एलानिया दौरा किया है, जहां उन्होंने मुल्क के अमीर और वज़ीर दिफा से बातचीत की है, जहां मशरिक़ वस्ता में अमेरिका का सबसे बड़ा फौजी अड्डा है। याद रहे कि सऊदी अरब, मिस्र, बहरीन और मुत्तहिदा अरब अमारात ने ईरान के साथ कतर के करीबी ताल्लुकात और शिद्दत पसंदों को दी जाने वाली मुबैना हिमायत की बिना पर जून में कतर के साथ ताल्लुकात मुअत्तल कर दिए थे। अमरीकी सदर डोनाल्ड ट्रंप ने गुज़श्ता हफ्ते जनरल असेंबली के इजलास के अहाते से बाहर कतर के अमीर से मुलाकात की थी। भारत के शहर बम्बई के एक रेलवे स्टेशन पर भगदड़ मचने से कम 22 अफराद हलाक और 30 से ज्यादा जख्मी हो गए। हादसा जुमे के रोज मरकजी रेलवे स्टेशन के पुल पर शदीद तूफानी बारिश के दौरान पेश आया। रेलवे हुक्काम का कहना है कि वाक़े की तहकीकात की जा रही है। भारत के वज़ीर आज़म नरेंद्र मोदी ने हादसे पर गहरे दुख का इजहार किया है। पाकिस्तान के दफ्तर खारजा ने पाकिस्तान में आलमी दहशतगर्द तंजीम दाइश की मौजूदगी से मुतल्लिक खबरों की तरदीद कर दी है। दफ्तर खारजा ने एक बार फिर इल्जाम आयद किया है कि भारत अफगानिस्तान में तामीर नौ के मंसूबों की आड़ में पाकिस्तान में दहशतगर्दी करवा रहा है और इस्लामाबाद को अफगानिस्तान में भारतीय फौजी भेजने से मुतल्लिक अमरीकी पेशकश पर सख्त तशवीश है। ईरान के वजीर खारजा जवाद जरीफ ने कहा है कि अगर अमेरिका ईरान के साथ होने वाले 6 मुल्की एटमी मुआहदे से दस्तबरदार हुआ तो ईरान भी ऐसा ही करेगा। अमेरिकी सदर डोनाल्ड ट्रंप 2015 में होने वाले इस मुआहदे के खिलाफ हैं और वो इसे शर्मिंदगी और तारीख का बदतरीन मुआहदा करार देते हैं। याद रहे कि अगर ट्रंप ने 16 अक्टूबर तक मुआहदे की तौसीक न की तो कांग्रेस के पास इस बात का फैसला करने के लिए 60 दिन होंगे कि ईरान पर दोबारा पाबंदियां आयद कर दी जाएं। इंडिया और ऑस्ट्रेलिया के दरमियान बंगलोर के स्टेडियम में खेले जाने वाले चौथे वनडे मैच में ऑस्ट्रेलिया ने इंडिया को 21 रन से शिकस्त दे दी। इंडिया को जीत के लिए मुकर्ररा 50 ओवरों में 335 रन का हदफ मिला, लेकिन इंडियन टीम 8 विकेटों के नुकसान पर 313 रन बना सकी। 3 मुसलसल वनडे मैचों में शिकस्त के बाद ऑस्ट्रेलियाई टीम ने जुमेरात को इंडिया के खिलाफ मैच जीता। सामीन, ये थी इस वक्त तक की अपडेट्स। मजीद अपडेट्स के साथ आपकी खिदमत में दोबारा हाजिर होंगे। तब तक के लिए Allah Hafiz.
Local, national and international news. This is Salaam Radio. Broadcasting 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. You're listening to Let's Talk, your weekly current affairs show with me, Hameed Chowdhury, and my co-host, Akeel Halil.
Assalamu alaikum.
We're live on air on Salaam Radio 106.2 FM and Inspire FM in Luton. We're online at salamradio.co.uk. You can find us on social media at Salaam Radio and YouTube Live or via iOS and Android apps. We are always on air, 24/7, uniting all communities. We'd love to listen to you. Please do get involved with your opinions, thoughts on 01703 602 133. That's 01703 602 133. Or you can always text or WhatsApp us on the same number, 07745 278 978. Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, Salaam.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. You're getting really good at this now, you know?
You reckon
You're a natural, bro.
Good training.
What does it mean?
I know it wasn't you. Anyway,
well done.
Jazakallah for joining us. Tonight we'll be talking about this last week in 60 minutes.
Yes, something different.
That's something different indeed, yeah. And that'll be a challenge. But generally we have two topics generally
That's right.
to discuss, which we we do get to the second topic at times. But this week we're going to cover a whole spectrum of topics because we find that they're interlinked.
Yeah.
And they're correlated. So inshallah we'll try and kind of make one flow into the other. But to aid us and assist us and help us, we'd love to hear from you, and hopefully something that we'll talk about today will touch a nerve or get you to pick up the phone and comment. So please do call us on 01733 602 133. That's 01733 602 133, or text and WhatsApp us on 07745 278 978. Okay, inshallah, before we get onto the topics, how's your week been?
I'm going to describe it in one word.
Okay.
Intense.
Intense? Oh, subhanAllah.
It's been intense.
Yeah? What's that mean? I mean, I find it intense and you don't tend to go, but what's that mean?
Just let's leave that there. Yeah. But let's just say, it's been a really, really busy week. I'm like I say, I think I said it last week, Friday, right? Yeah. It's great. It's Friday. I'm loving the fact that it's Friday and the weekend is upon us.
Yeah. I think everyone likes the fact that it's Friday. Yeah. But you know, it's a modern day concept, isn't it? This idea of a 5-day working week with 2-day rest. Not that I'm knocking it.
Yeah, that's true. But I suppose it also comes down to what you've essentially achieved between Monday and Friday as well. I mean, everybody's parameters of achieving something is different.
What are you trying to say? I mean, are you trying to insinuate something there?
I'm not saying anything about anyone. I'm just saying.
In a sense that traditionally people worked every day of the week. There was never this kind of a clear-cut division between one week to the next, in a sense with a break. But I suppose with Muslims, you know, there was this idea of a Friday being off, and even then it's not really a Friday off because the obligatory is to kind of come for prayer, and once after prayer then go out and seek the sustenance of that God has provided for you. So in a sense, you know, us having 2 specific days off is very contemporary.
Right.
And I think in some parts of the world they probably don't even do that because every day is a day to get their bread.
Yeah. And in other parts of the world they work less than us and they have essentially a 4-day weekend.
Which parts of the world are that?
I can't tell you that because you'll immigrate and I'll have no one to do the show with.
But you're right. But it's about how you value time, isn't it? Because ultimately time is the one that is like a block of ice that's melting away.
Yeah.
You know, we can acquire everything else pretty much, or to an extent. Even health, you know, if you get ill, you can find medicine or something like that, or go to a doctor to get yourself better. But time is something that we will never get back. And
as you get older, you certainly start seeing that egg timer in front of you, don't you? You know, you start thinking, oh, well, you're absolutely right, and you start benchmarking other people's birthdays around your own life, like your children or things like that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean,
I think I posted on our group.
Osama Cannon. Oh my God!
Everyone knows
I certainly haven't had it. Can you invite me, please?
the talk by Osama Cannon, who's like an American.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
But what I found fascinating about, I mean, I'd never really listened to him. I think he's come to Peterborough once.
Has he?
Yeah, because I think he was studying at Cambridge, and I do remember him coming down. But anyway, he's American. So what I found fascinating about this particular speech he gave, it was very candid, because it was it was candid in a view that, you know, because he's got ALS, so he's seeing his body shut down, and it was candid with the view that he is you know, he's seeing life come to an end.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was quite a moving.
So it's very interesting when you hear somebody who sees their life coming to an end, because generally we don't live in that spectrum. We generally have this idea that you know, we forget about the end of life, until you reach the end of life.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So anyway, it was interesting. But anyway, that's so time is a valuable thing.
It is definitely. I didn't ask you how rude am I. I'm sure some of our listeners must be thinking, oh my God, how rude am I? Well, how was your week?
I've got accustomed to that. we just had the station manager in here doing all sorts of things, throwing us off.
Well, it's all the magical stuff that he does, and without him, we wouldn't be even doing what we're doing. But yeah, he's like the Harry Potter, isn't he, for us?
Yeah.
How was your week?
Alhamdulillah, it was good. I mean,
that's great. Okay, so what are we talking about tonight?
It's good week. It was a slightly tougher week than I'm used to.
Okay. You actually logged onto your PC? I mean, didn't you say that normally your normal, so 51 weeks of the year,
Right.
you're plugging the PC in.
Okay.
And then 1 week of the year, you
So I
actually press
log in.
the on button.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you see the lights and you're like, oh my God, this is going to be a
Mate,
long
I'm
week.
responsible for quite a major set of deliveries.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And that is from the power cable to the monitor,
and
switching over to
yeah.
the...
Yeah, it's not gonna have say somebody who sits in the car pretty much all
Oh,
day
I don't know what you're talking about.
driving
Oh,
around.
okay.
Anyway, let's get to the first topic,
Mountains.
which actually brings us nicely to our first topic. Tommy Robinson, who we all know was a former leader of DDO, and now ex-leader of DDO, he recently invited somebody to accept Islam and accept the truth, actually, on national TV. Can you believe that? That's amazing, right?
Yeah.
So-
That, I mean, do you want to break it down for our listeners?
Exactly.
What happened?
He went on Good Morning, the Good Morning show. I think it's
It's Good Morning Britain, isn't it?
Good Morning Britain, that's the one, yeah. And he was talking about the Quran and Muslims in there, which is his favorite topic, obviously. And he picked up the Quran and he said, "I challenge people." Well, he didn't say "I challenge." I'm just paraphrasing. To read the Quran, to seek the truth. Yeah, seek the truth in this book. Yeah, and it turned out somebody actually took him up on that challenge. Christos Onassi took him up on that challenge, rang up Ilmfried and said, or messaged Ilmfried, whichever way, and said, "Can you send me a copy of the Quran along with many of the people that have sent them messages?" And they sent out the books. 3 months later, he rings them up and says, "I want to accept the Shahada."
Subhanallah.
Subhanallah. So he was thankful for Tommy Robinson to actually inviting him to Islam in that very public way.
And I'm sure...
I'm sure he didn't intend to.
I'm sure he didn't intend to do that.
Oh no, he was talking. He was talking about hate and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting how two people can approach the same set of texts, the same words, and come up with very different conclusions.
Definitely. And this instance, it obviously isn't, it's not an isolated incident. It happens quite frequently, believe it or not.
That's right, yeah.
People will often read the religious texts, and as you quite rightly just put it, you maybe have 2 or 3 different people looking at the same text, and 2 will take something from it and 1 won't. And conversely, actually, God says that in the book itself. There's going to be people who are going to
guides who he wills. Is it?
Exactly. And so some people are it's like, we've spoken about this previously as well. Heaven isn't for everybody. Somebody's going to. I hope so too. But I mean, hell's there for a reason.
Yeah, but isn't our hope?
My hope is everybody goes to heaven, of course.
Right, yeah,
but I'm saying both are being created for a purpose.
Right, yeah,
and it's similarly, when people read the book, sometimes people will read a book for a purpose, a particular purpose, which is right. I don't care what something is in this book. I want to take what I'm going to take out of it. But before you know it, like this chap, he took up the challenge. Perhaps he was thinking something similar to Tommy Robinson's, way of thinking, but not, perhaps maybe not as extreme. And suddenly he started to read it, realizing, whoa, this is the truth. And suddenly his heart opens up, etc. And suddenly he becomes a Muslim. This is an absolutely amazing story.
Yeah.
And I've often said to you, people who are born Muslims have a great responsibility. And if people are not gonna take care of what they've been given to, God will give it to someone else.
Yeah, and that is very, very true, because God says that in the Quran, that if you aren't willing to do His bidding, which means to establish peace and security and safety in the world, be fair and just, and invite people to live in that kind of safe and prosperous society, if you aren't willing to do that, then God will replace you with people who will.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of God's law, isn't it? I mean, we know that any society that any society that removes justice from its parameters, it's a society that's going to slow down. And we see that. I mean, Britain is has been a leader in international law, in establishing human rights laws, in establishing a whole set of laws that have protected people's civil liberties and so on. And yet now we are seeing, and we're seeing this with Muhammad Rabbani's case and others, where there is where we have draconian laws coming into our legal system, which are then undermining our civil liberties and our private space, which actually is a society that has turned the table on
It has.
itself.
And I'm assuming you're referring to Section 7 there.
I'm referring to Section 7, absolutely, yeah.
And we know, I think it was a week ago or was it actually the beginning of this week? He was convicted actually for not giving up his iPhone password.
Yeah.
Which he had sensitive information on. I mean, Section 7 is a particularly harsh law.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just the fact that he
of course,
wasn't giving up his iPhone password. It was that he had information on there which was evidence against the certain people in the U.S. government for torture crimes, and the people demanding that information were gonna channel that to the U.S. government. So it was that kind of a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Plus the right to client the privileged kind of information,
confidential
information that
I mean, I think the other element here as well is, I mean, and don't forget as well, when he did say from the outset, you know, if you are going to do this, and you know, I'm quite prepared to go to prison for it, you know. So it's interesting.
I mean,
it's certainly, you know what, brother,
for us, really,
he is, and I will say something here, brother, which is, it's a shame it's got to that, but it's definitely set a precedent.
It has, yeah,
because it was going to be it was going to happen at some point. It's happened, you know, and so you know,
he left the courtroom, even though he was convicted. He left as a hero, really, because you know, he left to applause and flowers and so on. So because people, and we're not just talking about Muslims. We're talking about people, conscientious people in our society who recognize that this Section 7, these draconian laws, are not right for our society, and they undermine our civil liberties and our right to freedom and our right to private lives, and they should be got rid of. Or amended in a way that they make us stronger as a society rather than making us weaker as a society.
Yeah, that's right. And Section 7, as far as I'm concerned, makes us weaker.
It does.
And I know we've dissected it on the previous shows, but I mean, just getting back on topic of here and this particular EDL chap here is, can you remember a couple of weeks ago we had Christos Onassi. We had Friday Night Prime. They had somebody on the show a few weeks ago. I can't remember his name, but he was someone who was in the EDL and National Front, etc. And then he became a Muslim as well.
Yeah.
So
it reminds me of this. Sorry to cut you off there, but it reminds me of this story where this, and just quickly actually, where this companion. Not companion at the time, but where this man comes into Mecca, and he's a famous poet, really famous poet, like a celebrity, you know, and he comes in, so people meet him and people greet him, and one of the things they tell him is they warn him against this man called Muhammad. They say, look, don't go near him, don't listen to him, he's got poisonous words and they will kind of screw up your mind and all that kind of stuff. So he puts cotton in his ear so he can't listen to the words, and then he sort of walks around for a bit. Then he thinks, hang on a second, I'm one of the most intelligent guys here. I'm a poet, I'm very respected, I'm a celebrity, I'm one of the most intelligent guys here, and yet what have I got to be afraid of? I'll listen to the man, and if he's got something interesting to say, I'll hear him out. And if I realize it's not interesting, it's not any good, I will reject it. So anyway, he goes and listens to Muhammad Sallallahu and then follows him home and becomes Muslim, because what he hears is absolutely fascinating, contrary to what he's been told. And I think this is what happened here with Tommy Robinson. He himself was doing his bidding, in a sense, to say to people, look, read this book because it's got all this hate and whatever you. Somebody takes him up on that challenge, says, look, I'm intelligent enough to determine what he says is right or wrong, and hey presto, he becomes Muslim. So alhamdulillah, that's 3 months later after the challenge. Christos Onassi, now known as Abdul Bari, rings the own feed and becomes Muslim because he read the copy of the Quran and realized that it was the truth.
So that's amazing. SubhanAllah. That's a fantastic story.
Okay, well, have we got a message here?
It's it's just
okay, anyway,
it's one of our fellow presenters having a bit of fun.
Okay, so anyway, we're talking about Quran and talking about how Quran guides. The next part of this story that's come out today has been how, and now we're going to the other end of the world now, how China's police and by extension the Chinese government, has ordered all Muslims to hand in their copies of the Quran and their prayer mats, otherwise face harsh punishment. And this is in Xinjiang, in that region, in Kashgar, Hostam, and other regions. Similar practices are where there are a vast majority of Muslims. This is kind of, I think, the northern region of...
yeah, I mean, to add to that as well, I mean, this crackdown, nationwide crackdown on terrorism, which they call it terrorism. I'm using that term loosely, began in 2014.
That justifies anything nowadays.
It does, yeah.
You know.
So, you know, the crackdown on terrorism that began in 2014 in response to rising incidents of violence in the region and elsewhere in China. I think it's also important to state here as well is that it wasn't just confiscating Qurans and prayer mats. It's also things like fasting bans, wearing a face veils, having long beards,
anything related to Islam,
anything related to Islam, or what they what they are going to describe as extremist behavior. I mean, wearing a hijab or having a long beard is deemed to be extremist behavior here. I mean, I'm doing the research on this article.
The funny thing is, taking a prayer mat away and taking the Quran away. I mean, Muslims, a lot of Muslims pray anywhere, on the floor, wherever. They
that's right.
A prayer mat to pray, and a lot of them have memorized the Quran. So they recite from memory. So
that's right.
I don't know how that's going to work.
I mean, there was one last thing there as well, which is they've also recently banned, baby names. Islamic baby names.
There's nothing. Well, I mean, it's interesting how you get Islamic names.
Yes, but I'm just saying, it's like
names, right?
It's almost as if somebody has said to them, right, here's the dummy's guide to Islam, and they've gone, right, okay, so how should we do the banning here? Chapter 1, right, let's ban. Right, what are we banning today then? Prayer mats, Qurans, hijabs, beards, baby names. So basically, whatever they look like or sound like, let's ban it all and it'll go away. But one of the reasons, one of the successes of the Quran being so widespread is, like you said, it's in Muslims' hearts.
Yeah, that's why. They've memorized it. I mean, that's the thing, that for Muslims, you can get rid of the book. It's just a book at the end there, but the words are contained in people's hearts.
In people's hearts, absolutely.
And actually, what will this do? It'll make parents be more conscious of making sure that their kids memorize the Quran by heart.
Yeah,
and not just rely on the book itself. So anyway, Amnesty International has said that this continues to violate the right to freedom of religion and a crackdown on all unauthorized religion gatherings in the region, and especially detaining Uyghur writers, etc. So this is all kind of contrary to international law. But who's going to hold China to account, because we have so much trade deals with them?
But not just that. If you recall last week, and I'm sure our listeners will recall this last week as well, is guess what? China is on the UN Security Council.
Oh, wait. Oh, yes, it is.
It's a permanent member, so it really makes no difference here. For how many years, right, has successive UK prime ministers, been at rallies and said, right, we're going to hold China to account for human rights record and so on and so forth? Never happened. And Dalai Lama is a prime example of the whole situation. They said, right, if you carry on talking to this person or you entertain this, but not just the UK, but several other countries around the world, we'll start doing business with you. And you know what? Unfortunately, in this world, money talks.
It's all about money. It's always been the case.
And with China, right? And you know what? The irony here as well is China is building so much infrastructure in the Muslim world, and yet this is happening on their doorstep. I guarantee you, no Muslim country will say anything to them.
Yeah, which is fascinating. I mean, especially about the Security Council. There's not a single Muslim country on the Security Council, which is interesting in its own right. But 55 officially recognized minority people in China, of which 10 are predominantly Muslims. Yeah, so there's 1.5 to 4% of the population which is Muslim. So it's a large number of the population, although smaller in percentage-wise. But what's interesting is if you go back in history and how the Ming Dynasty really kicked the whole thing off.
Yes.
6 of Ming Dynasty founders, Zhu Yongzhang, If I don't know.
No, I'm sure that was perfect.
You think so?
Yeah, of course.
6 of his most trusted advisors were Muslim.
Yeah.
Including Lan Yu, who was the one who marched out with the Imperial Army and made a decisive victory against the Mongols in Mongolia, who were actually ones who were attacking China. And after that, they didn't attack China at all. And then Zhang Yuzing, who was the founder of the Ming Dynasty, he wrote 100-word eulogy to Fang Shang, who was another one, and built mosques around the region, and personally wrote eulogies in praise of the Prophet's virtues. So, Muslims had a strong influence in China, and they've always been a friend of China. I mean, they've been Chinese themselves. I mean, Zhang He, who was the most famous, and we only find out about him in 1906 because researchers have kind of unearthed him effectively, and he was one of the most famous explorers, mariners, diplomats, fleet admiral of Chinese,
many hats.
China. Yeah, absolutely, and he was one of the most famous child of China, and he was a Muslim. So the Muslims have this huge kind of influence in China, in helping it grow and helping it be strong and helping it defend its border. And yet today, what's happening in China, what's happening with the Uyghur people, and so on, it's appalling. And the Chinese government in Beijing and others should recognize that they have a debt to them, like all around the world. And we talked about this on previous shows. They have a debt to the Muslim people, and this kind of treatment is not acceptable, socially, morally, or according to international law.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I want to put that out to our listeners as well. Obviously, we'd love to hear from you. I know we've got some comments coming on Facebook about after our show. Actually, later we have a young chap called Harris J. So he'll be on after our show. I just want to reassure everybody else who's listening.
You don't want us to be off.
It's like you two go. He'll be here, I think, about 9 o'clock or maybe 9:05. So yeah, just stay tuned for that one. But no, getting back to what you're saying, you're absolutely right. It's a form of ethnic cleansing, religious cleansing, because it's a communist state at the end of the day. And I think using terrorism as the key phrase here, and like you said, everything seems to come underneath that umbrella. Well, if anything happens around the world, or look at the Rohingya Muslims at the moment, what's actually happening to them? It's underneath the guise of terrorist activity. Yet, what is it now? 500,000 people have moved. You can't tell me 500,000 of those.
The term terrorism.
It's being used too loosely, but because it's such a pertinent term, and because it's such a
acceptable term, almost quote unquote,
absolutely. But the other element here, because it's a term that also creates fear within a person, you instantly start thinking wherever that term is attached to, whatever is being reported is real.
Yeah.
Why would you doubt a country or a state saying to you, right, we're going into this area to take control because there's terrorists hiding or whatever? First thoughts for anybody would be, oh my God, there's terrorists in this area, we need to do this. But unfortunately, this is now being used to literally wipe out communities and major displacements around the world. And this is happening right in front of our eyes. And this, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but it's not shocking anymore.
Yeah.
It used to be shocking. We seem to be so desensitized with what's happening around the world with the term terrorism.
Yeah.
I know we're going to come on to this later on, and I hope we have some time, because the Pakistani ambassador who slammed India, she used the term state terrorist many, many times in her 8.5-minute address to the UN. Yeah. It was really thought-provoking.
Yeah. And most people who know about the situation in Kashmir would probably recognize that as state-led terms. Anyway, we've got about 20 seconds to go, inshallah, before we go to the break. So jazakallah, brothers and sisters, for listening. Inshallah, when we come back, we'll continue on with our conversations of what's been happening in the last week, and we'll pick up the conversation around the term terrorism and how it's applied to some and not others. So inshallah, do come back and listen. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم بك نحيا وبك نموت وإليك المصير. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته وبسم الله. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم دع ما يريبك إلى ما لا يريبك. That leave that which puts you in doubt for that which does not put you in doubt.
If you want to learn about Islam and Muslims, stay tuned to Salaam Radio 106.2 FM.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to Let's Talk.
Let's talk.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Alhamdulillah. I'm your host Hameed Chowdhury with Akeel Halil. Before the show, we were talking about how people are reading Quran and becoming Muslims, while in other parts of the world, governments are banning the book, the Quran, and anything to do with Islam, including pyramids, etc., namely China, all in the guise of terrorism. And I think this is what we ended with the show just before the break. So I think it'll be interesting to know how the term terrorism doesn't equally apply everywhere, because, and I speak about Dr. Nasser Kurdi, who at 58 years old, father of three, was stabbed in the back, attacked as he headed to the masjid in Outreach Islamic Center in Cheshire, and this. The news reports that came out clearly stated, and I think this was clearly stated in the report, that this is not an act of terrorism.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also important to add as well. I mean, after this happened, and he was discharged from hospital, according to his colleague, Dr. Khalid Anis, a spokesman for the Ultra and Hale Muslim Association, who he described him as very lucky. He was stabbed in the neck.
Yeah.
If you look at this, I don't care what anybody says to me, they tried to kill him.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no way. Where he was stabbed, that was, he was so fortunate he didn't die. I mean, you just have to look into this. But like you said, and just to add a little bit more to this as well, is Greater Manchester Police said 2 men aged 32 and 54 were arrested within an hour of the attack, which is great. I mean, that's what we want to see. And the force was treating it as a hate crime, not terrorism. Okay? But you know, this... I did see it in on the news, on televised news. It wasn't the first, second, or third story.
It never is.
I know it never is.
Wrong colour. And a Muslim.
Well,
wrong
I mean,
religion.
Well, I think maybe the wrong religion. Yes, but you know, and apparently there were some abusive comments and things like that were made, and they understand that, you know, it at the time anyway, when he was stabbed, he didn't realise what happened. Later on, he said, "Oh well, I can feel something," and found out it was actually a knife that was used. But you know what the irony here is the fact that this doctor is an orthopedic consultant who's devoted his life to helping others, which is really quite poignant, brother.
Yep.
Right?
And not only that, he volunteered, and I say volunteered on his time off. He volunteered to help the Manchester bomb victims.
Look at this, and look how he gets thanked.
Yeah.
He's walking to the masjid, and minding his own business.
Absolutely.
And a guy walks up to him from behind him, stabs him in the neck. Says abusive comments to him, leaves him there. They run away, and we're not, you know, we're having to search for the story.
Yes, that's
you
right,
know, if you know, it doesn't take.
It's not like what, you know, the Mail or the Sun or these kind of tabloid papers ordinarily would plaster anything on the front page. If to do with Muslims, you know, as a you know, a terrorist kills a dog or something. I don't know. But yet, in this instance, we don't see that as the front page news. We don't see the term terrorism applied or terrorist applied. We don't hear how this person, you know, and rounding him up, his family up, rounding the whole community up. We don't, you know, demanding the whole community come together and apologize. We don't hear any of that. We don't hear any of those.
We don't see multiple correspondents from different countries all over the world, all in one concentrated area, trying to find anybody looking, you know, slightly Muslim for a story or a comment or opinion. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. And you know what? And you know, the heartening element to this story as well is, one, he's okay. Yeah, all right, and it wasn't life-threatening.
It was close.
It was very, very close, actually. I think way more closer than...
He was very fortunate.
Very fortunate.
I think he said in his interview that he feels blessed by God. Because,
that's right. And to that end, he's forgiven his attackers.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
But you don't see this everywhere.
No.
So you have a doctor who's helped the Manchester bomb victims, minding his own business, going to his place of prayer, attacked, stabbed, left to die. Don't see it anywhere. And yet we're going to flip this now, and we've got a train going towards its destination, a little bag left, you know, unattended, an explosion that didn't apparently you know, have the impact it should have done, plastered across all our screens, world's media absolutely everywhere, forecasts for what may have happened, you know, hypotheses and all the rest of it's all coming, you know, really being force-fed down our throats for literally you know, a good couple of weeks. That was wall-to-wall coverage of this, and then suddenly they have some CCTV footage of a person walking with a little bag, and there's arrests made everywhere. And what happens? 2 weeks later, after the warrant, in fact, after the warrant is finished, they released this person without charge. And may I add, actually, before he was released without charge, they interviewed his employer. I saw that on TV, and they were asking questions about where he was from and what was his behaviour like. All this completely demonized. I mean, absolutely, his character, his very little history in the UK, completely destroyed. His face everywhere, and now he's been released without charge.
And we don't see the same applied to this attacker in Nasser Kurdi's case.
Nothing.
You know, we don't see the same.
And if our listeners are thinking, oh well, these two, oh well, they sound like they're going off for one. It looks like we actually have.
I think we have a
we have a call.
Possibly. Okay, maybe I don't think it's come through yet.
Has it not? Right. So the other element you got here as well is, I mean, the call. I mean, the shock of the call is diverted by thinking. But the other element here you have. So if our listeners are thinking,
okay,
oh well,
shall we take the call?
Are we okay?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. You're live on Let's Talk. Can I have your name, please?
Wa alaikum salam. Hameed Akeel here from Santino's.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you, brother?
Alhamdulillah, bro. Alhamdulillah. I was just listening to you whilst I was driving. I've got my hands free in. So I'm just listening to the conversation you were having.
Inshallah. Can we have your comment in that case?
Yeah, well, you were talking about how different labels are used, like terrorism is used in certain ways. I was listening to a news story on the BBC last week, or during this week, just gone, and it was regarding Northern Ireland and how families of Catholics were living in a mixed community, and it was a mixed community setup, an estate where they were trying to create community cohesion. I don't know how old it was, but what happened is the Catholic people had to be moved out of there because of paramilitary activity. So the word for a white terrorist is not a terrorist, it's actually paramilitary. So we have different words to describe somebody of a white color who's using force or intimidation or threatening behavior to remove people from a locality. Whereas if that was if it was somebody from a Muslim background, we would see a totally different picture.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I could hear this woman saying paramilitary over and over again, and I was shouting at her, no, terrorists, it's terrorists. If these people are taking these people out of their homes because of their religion, you know, not because of their color or anything, just because of their religion, and it's only a slight difference between one religion and the other. So it's madness, but you know, because they're not Muslims, they're not classed as terrorists. They're classed as paramilitary.
Yep.
Don't even know what they are.
I'm not entirely sure about Northern Ireland in this case, but I think there are some resonance to the fact that when we do see a non-Muslim and let it be a white person, and we've seen this, in other parts of Europe as well as Britain, who commit acts of terror. Take for example Damon Smith, who was not too long ago, last year actually, in fact, he left a device on a Jubilee line for it to go off and injure main people, and then went off to college. Now he was branded, or he was said that he was no heart-filled jihadi, so he never wanted to harm anyone. And he actually got sentenced to he didn't get charged under the Terrorism Act.
It's unbelievable.
So I think there's some resonance to, and Damon Smith is just one of many.
Yeah.
Where I mean I can't remember the name of the guy who had a nail bomb under his bed, who built a nail bomb. And so on and so forth, but they never got charged under the Terrorism Act. And it seems to be the Terrorism Act almost exclusively, and actually we'll talk about a story where this is an exception, where almost exclusively applies to Muslim or people of colour.
Yeah, and I know we've previously spoken about how there is a racial bias within the judicial system, and this is just once again highlights it. I think the brother really hit the nail on the head there. You know, there is a different way of describing groups, and I think it's all part of a narrative. It's all part of this desensitizing people.
You're absolutely right, because Damon Smith, when the story was introduced, as I was reading it, it said a former altar boy. And it's terms like that which reduce the kind of impact, and make us feel almost sorry for him.
Yeah.
You know, what a poor little boy.
Yeah.
You know, and yet if it was somebody else, in the case here, in the Parson Green's case, where Yahya Farouki, who's 21, he's a student here in the UK, studies during the day, works in a fried chip shop. He was picked up, his face was thrown across the papers, branded terrorist, and now released without charge. But yet we don't see that all over the papers, and we don't see the apology given to him that is due to him. Anyway, Jazakallah khair, brother. I hope that's Jazakallah khair for your comment. I don't know if you got any follow-up comments, but
no, I'm just at work, so I will have to. But thank you for having me on it.
No, appreciate the call, bro. Jazakallah.
Take care, bro.
Islam.
Office.
So I think that was interesting. But the brother was right on. I mean, I can't make the correlation between Northern Ireland, but certainly I think there is a bias there.
Oh no, without a doubt. No, he articulated his point really well. I mean, and now what we're gonna add to the mix of what we're talking about now is the story which broke about bomb disposal unit called to Leeds as counter-terrorism police arrested 11 far-right group members, and so the police were called to Oak Avenue in Garforth as part of an investigation into banned extreme right-wing group called National Action. Okay, and if many people don't know about this is the group where very recently, which we covered, about serving British soldiers were a part of this organisation. This is a proscribed organisation which has been banned. I believe it was in 2016.
They praised the guy Murr who killed who stabbed Joe Cox, killed Joe Cox. They praised him. So this is the kind of group that we
That's right. I mean, National Action became the first extreme right-wing group to be banned underneath the terrorism laws in December 2016, actually. The proscription meant that being a member or inviting support for the organisation is a criminal offence carrying a sentence of up to 10 years imprisonment. This is a very serious, very dangerous group. And why are we talking about this right now is because, it's not, this highlights the point, it's not plastered everywhere.
No, it's not, no.
It's in a local newspaper. You have to go digging for it.
I actually had to look, and I can't see a single national newspaper that's covered this story. Last majority was the Yorkshire News, so regional news.
Regional news,
It wasn't really a national news story. And yet it's 11, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 11 people.
11 people. And if you flip this, and these were Muslims or of whatever description, this would have been everywhere. Terror cell, and all the rest of it that goes with it. And
I mean, Parson Greens. It's not just the one. It's not just Yahya Farouki. Who they released. They rounded up 7 people. And they plastered 7 people on the front pages. More so Yahya Farouki, but others, and of which they released 6 of them without charge. All 6 without charge. I mean, what's happening here? I mean, we're throwing the net wide. We're arresting people because they look different. They're from a different part of the world, or maybe speak a different language and
or fit a profile,
fit a particular profile. And yet, on our doorsteps, we have and God knows how big this group is, National Act, or other groups that are advocate. I mean, the killer or the attacker of Nasser Kurdi. He's not said to be part of National Action, so he's part of some other group. So as Nasser Kurdi said, that the crimes against Muslims is escalating, and it's on an increase, and it needs to be heard that Muslims, the climate is threatening.
Very.
And when you hear stories like the surgeon Dr. Nasser Kurdi, father of the 58-year-old who's been cowardly stabbed in the back and left there to die. Unfortunately, alhamdulillah, it was a good outcome. And you don't hear this, and then yet on the flip side, you have these 6 people, Muslims, who get 7 people who get put on national papers, rounded up, and then released. And then there's no coverage for their release. It's never said, oh yeah, you know what, they were innocent or so on and so forth. This guy Yahya Farouki has been kind of branded now as a terrorist in eyes of most people. The shop has been branded as hiring a terrorist. The community has been affected. I mean, where's the apology for that?
And there isn't going to be one. And I think we'd be very, very naive in thinking there's going to be an apology. Although it's right and proper that there should be, but it's we're not certainly at that stage yet. But you are absolutely right. We need to, as a community, look at this and think, hold on, how can you constantly keep we feel like we're being scapegoated, constantly, and it's not just a feeling, it's actually happening, okay, right? And we have all these people. I think we may have another call. I'm not sure what's going on there. Do you want to quickly I think we've got a couple of text messages just there as well. What's going on? Let's talk tonight, brother.
Let's go for the call, inshallah.
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum. You're live on air. Let's talk. Can I have your name, please?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ashad. And I just wanted to speak to you. I've been listening to your show for the last half an hour or so. And I have to admit, what the points that you've raised are valid and make a lot of sense. But I only have one concern as a Muslim living in this country, and my concern is that we are quite quick to blame and point at others and procrastinate others in saying how they are blaming Muslims compared to what how they treat their own white individuals or other fellow members of the society. I think a few things we have to understand is that, first of all, we accept that we are a minority living in a country which is governed by the Caucasian individuals, and in this case happen to be Britishers. We have to also understand that I was recently involved in a professional process where I was shocked to know that compared to the various religious ethnic minorities that live within this country, compared to the population base that Muslims have in this country, we have the biggest footprint in jails.
Yes.
And that is probably a very valid reason why they would turn around and say that this crime has been committed by a Muslim. So I do think that in light of all of this, we have to talk about reforming ourselves as individuals. And it's sad to say that majority of those individuals who are in jail actually are because of drug peddling. It really, 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 really saddens me to say this, that that we are the believers of a faith where nasha or any kind of addiction is classified as haram, and we are the biggest peddlers of any of these kind of things. So I think we put ourselves forward, and if we put ourselves forward, others will blame us. If we improve upon ourselves, things will automatically improve. Our impressions will automatically improve.
Jazakallah khair. I mean, that's great. Thank you very much for your comments. Although I would say that I don't think the fact that people ruling are Caucasian or the fact that we're a minority. I mean, we still live in a free society and we still have equal rights and as anyone else. We have one person, one vote. We have the rights to practice our religion, to protect, to have our privacy, and to have these laws that protect us as well as everyone else with the same brush. Not to have a different color for one and for the other. As for your point about the prisons, and we've covered this before actually, where proportionally Muslims represent a higher proportion of prison population, but largely they are the petty crimes to drugs and so on and so forth. But what we're talking about in particular here is the term terrorism, where it applies almost exclusively and generally applies towards somebody who is of a different color, different ethnicity, or who happens to be a Muslim, or even maybe not even a Muslim, but somebody who maybe went to a mosque once in his lifetime. Yeah. But yet the same rules don't apply across the board. So, for example, the example we gave is Dr. Nasser Kurdi, who's been stabbed in the back, left to die, and you can make correlation between him and Lee Rigby, where we had for weeks we had this across the media, across the pages. So I take your point, but I think we live in a free and fair society, and we have a right to criticize where we feel it's wrong.
You're absolutely right. I will not disagree with you even one bit, and you're completely correct in saying what you're saying. But at the same note, the attack that happened outside the mosque after the tube attack and after the attack in London a couple of months ago during election time, it was all over the paper and classified as a terrorist attack against Muslims. So I do think that society is coming around to our way of thinking, and yes, there is. And I do agree to a point where you're saying, but you also have to agree that we have to work ourselves through in order to make the government, make the organizations accept that this is what the truth and reality is. Unfortunately, what we do is we speak on talk shows, we speak on TV shows, but we do need to have a voice. I mean, recently, when the entire issue of Rohingya Muslims was raised, our own elected member of parliament from this area, her feedback of comments when she was told, can you raise this issue in the parliament, our own elected representative from our own area said she's going to consult her advisors and then come back whether she wants to raise this or not. All of these things classify that we may be saying what we are saying, but we do not have a voice.
Yeah, I think that's probably again a fair point. But I think what I would say is I personally have met our MP on the issue of Rohingya, and she was very much welcoming and taking on board the comments that were made, and said that she has and she will continue to speak on behalf of the Rohingya. So I just want to put it out there.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I want to add here as well.
There is not a single recorded evidence, or there's not a single recorded piece which confirms that our MP has actually raised this in the Parliament.
We should get on the show.
We should get on the show. I like where you're going with that, brother. What I want to add there is what you're mentioning there is, as a society, as a Muslim society in the UK, one thing we're definitely missing is that we're not active enough with that. We're not active citizens within that in the UK. That's the biggest problem we've got here. You know, we like you said, we are on talk shows and we're in groups and people will talk about things, but we're not actively taking a part in the UK fabric enough for us to have a voice. So, we haven't got enough people in Parliament. There's not enough people within professions who are getting together and trying to, have one voice to get our message heard. I totally agree with you.
This on
and we have, yeah.
I'm sure you have covered. Just because you've covered doesn't mean I can't speak about it.
No, of course not. No, of course not. I think you raised a really good point. Definitely.
And this is the reason I called, because you guys have made a huge difference. Your shows have made a huge difference, and it's nice to listen to you. But it will be even better if you could organize something on a much more organized platform where the voice can be raised in a much more formative and constructive fashion, rather than just listening to the show, switching off the show, and as the show is switched off, so does the brain switch off, and that's the end of that conversation. And the next week a new topic starts.
Okay,
and that's unfortunately how things happen.
Yeah, this is true. Thank you very much for calling, and really appreciate your comments. Inshallah, maybe you can ring in next week as well. But unfortunately, we ran out of time, so I'm going to have to let you go. Jazakallah khair for your comments again.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, I know we're running out of time, and we did say we were going to celebrate on today's show.
We were.
So we've run out of time. I hope we've done some of our topics justice. Really appreciate the calls we've had today. Really great comments. Do you know that? Really great feedback. Also, we're so not used to having the feedback, and we've had it all. It's all coming once, isn't it? It never rains, does it? But what I will say is, and I know it was plastered across the world news, but we're going to celebrate with our sisters in Saudi Arabia and say they can finally drive. King Salaam, a royal decree has said, right, the women inside Arabia can legally drive. So hats off to you, sisters.
The only country in the world that had banned women from driving.
And that's one less thing for the far right to now use.
But the point is that they will need a license, right?
They will.
But then they would need women instructors.
Well, there you go.
Not been able to
they were talking about that oil money is going to run out at some point. So now, this is another way to monetize.
The thing is, at what point will they be able to get licenses to drive?
Oh, I think you're going too far now. So
no, but it's good. It's good. I mean, it's good. It's late in coming because obviously in Islam there's nothing that bans it. But it's good that they finally recognize that women are 50% of our society, and they are equal partners, as Allah says in the Quran. They are equal partners and helpers.
Yeah.
And we have to recognize that, and this is a step in that direction to recognize that. So anyway, we've got 30 seconds to go. So Jazakallah khair, brothers and sisters. It's been a great show.
It has been great. Thanks everybody for listening.
Alhamdulillah, and inshallah, Jazakallah khair again for listening. It's been, we covered a whole spectrum of topics. We've had some great conversations with people who've called in, and in particular, I want to say to Isra Suleiman, who commented us a couple of times.
Yes.
In particular about House J, and then he came back and said he wants us to stay on the show. So
thank you very much for that. Harris J is up next,
inshallah.
So don't worry.
Assalamu alaikum. See you next week. Assalamu alaikum.
Stay tuned to Salaam Radio after this short ad break.
Our customers return.